All right, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Shop and Tread Talk podcast. We got Frank here, and we've got our guest, Devin from Matco. Thanks for joining us, Devin.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So,
right.
how long have you been doing this, Devin?
Oh, it's just 4 years now. I started in the new year back in 2022. So here we go. It's been
Wow.
4 years already. Can't believe it.
It has. It's been a while already for sure.
Yeah, time flies, when you're having fun and, the days are just packed. And so it seems like it wasn't that long ago, but I'm looking at the calendar going, wow, we're already here. So
That's good. That's good. And so basically, you are in the Southern Ontario area that you're servicing?
correct. Like Oxford County is where I live. And so I service surrounding areas like
Okay.
Woodstock, Tilsonburg. I do Elmer and St. Thomas as well, south of London area. And then I even do a bit of a kind of an eastern area of my territory, which includes Burford, which is near Brantford, Delhi near Simcoe, and then up through like Cortland, kind of Norwich area. So it's a pretty big territory on my Friday run. So yeah, it's a lot of ground to cover.
That is a lot. That's a lot of driving. You need to have a little, like a mini or something like that you drive around to save on fuel instead of the big truck.
Well, when they put these routes together, they did it during COVID, which was a strange time, and so they just kind of start small and then they build outward from there until they hit a minimum of 325 customers, depending on how big of a territory you got to go to hit that number. That's statistically that's statistically the number that they aim for to give you the best chances of success. Anything less than that, you just don't have a large enough customer pool to make the likely amount of sales you need each week to kind of hit your break even. So they'll build it out up to a certain point. If you got to drive more than an hour from your house to kind of get to your route, then that's a lot of dead time that you're not making any money just holding the wheel.
Definitely.
So
you want to be able to start your route close.
Sorry.
So you want to start your route close to home.
Ideally, like if I could go back and kind of restart the route now, it'd be neat if you could kind of keep it coalesced within like a city like St. Thomas or Woodstock. A lot of density there. A lot of shops are right next door to each other, and so it minimizes your drive time and the waste in between each stop. So
definitely.
When you get into these large rural routes, it is what it is. Out near Delhi and whatnot, there's only so many shops to draw from in a small community like that. So you end up moving on, and a bit of you might have 20 minutes between each shop. So it's not the end of the world, but it just like I say, as far as efficiency, the tighter the grouping, the better. And so at that time when they made my route, a lot of shops were kind of closed to outdoor kind of foot traffic, and that had a lot of restrictions and stuff. So some shops responded through email or through phone calls, and depending on luck, whether or not they made it on my route. There's a lot of places I drive by in between shops that are on my official route list. So
it's just now, can you alter your route as you need? Like if you had to go, say you wanted to condense a route or something like that for a different day, can you alter that whichever way you want?
To a degree. Officially, you would submit there's a survey form, and this way here the shop can officially become part of your route if Matco will allow it. Though, there's only so much you can handle. There's only so much you to go around in a day, and there's only so many hours in the day, and so a lot of guys will bite off more than they could chew, trying to chase the money or adding on too many new customers, and then your service to your existing shops suffer. So then Matco will limit the amount of shops you can officially have in your route. Now I can add as many Sunday customers, they call it, where I can just have a tab on my each day of the week in my system. Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, there is the shops for that day. On Sunday is where I can just add miscellaneous random customers. Somebody I happen to run into in a parking lot. Hey, I don't have a Matco guy, but can you help me?
You lose him there, Frank? Oh, there he is.
Okay. So, like I said, you'll get these these times
Looks like his
where
Wi-Fi connection might be
I
a
don't know if
little
I
Let
bit.
lost you
me pause
guys.
this. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Like I said, I'm not sure where
Yeah,
I cut out,
saying
but I think
there's
we were
a
talking about
connection.
being able to add customers to the route.
Okay, we're back. Little technical
Yeah, so like I
difficulties.
said,
We're
you can
back here with
add
Devin.
them, within reason. If you want to add an official shop proper to your route for weekly service on a regular interval, it would get
Yep.
submitted through
Your
this
Sunday
form to
routes, yeah.
Matco, and then they would
Yep.
approve it. Based on a handful of factors. Again, they're cautious to let you take on more than you can handle. Um, and the main thing is that
Okay.
the benefit of that is that you can do credit apps for customers if they want to buy a large purchase, like a toolbox or something like that, right? Otherwise,
Definitely.
you can kind of take on guys as you need to help people out. I try and do what I can within reason.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense. Yep.
Yep.
It's no different than you guys with a shop. If you whether it be taking on too many tires in one day,
Yeah,
or
well, it makes
biting
sense.
off
You
more
don't want
work
to
than you can
overload
kind of
yourself because
manage.
then you'd be
You don't
working
want to
way too many
oversell what you
hours in
can
a day, and
deliver
it
to a customer, and it's the same
would
with
make no
us.
sense at all either.
Uh,
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, family's important, and
Yep.
you got to have time for them and be
Yep.
available emotionally and physically. So that's the
You
balance.
still need to have time for yourself, right? At the end of the day. But
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, yeah, exactly. You got to have a balance, work-life balance, they call it.
Yeah.
Devin, if you want to talk a little bit about what you did before this,
Yeah,
you came
absolutely.
from
Yeah, my
the
background is
not the
a
automotive but the
310T
heavy
truck and
truck side. You
coach
were
service technician.
working for Cummins or something like
I've
that, I
been
think.
doing
So,
that since
you want to talk a little bit
1999.
about that and
So
what your
better
experience
part
was
of
before you
25
started doing
years.
tools?
I got licensed in '03. Bounced around at a few different places, some dealers, Metro Freightliner and whatnot. And I ended up the last 10 years of my career was at Cummins Incorporated in Mississauga. So I worked directly with the engine manufacturer at the distributor level. And I had a service truck. I did remote field service with a van, and I'd go around on site and take care of warranty and whatnot for customers. That way, there I did a lot of work for transit. So think London Transit or Grand River Transit, that kind of a thing. HSR in Hamilton did a lot of
oh
transit
yeah,
buses, a lot of natural gas and whatnot. So, but I had a really good time working for Cummins. That was a good company to work for. Some of my best years were there. No, they're at least as of the time that I left, they were the only name in the game for a transit application. Things were starting to shift towards
no shortage of work. That's
lower
for sure.
emission options like electrification. So electric buses are becoming more popular. Natural gas is a great alternative. It's just really
Yeah.
really clean emissions and whatnot. So they kind of have a toehold in that market for sure. And I spent a
Yeah.
lot of time at those places there, but I did all manner of repair. I could be in a scrap yard working on a
Yep.
Cinnabogan material handler, or power gen stuff up north in the Arctic. They had us all over the place. So it was quite a unique career working there. Yeah, they can sell to virtually any OEM, right? So whether it be Peterbilt or
Because the
some
Cummins
small
engine is a
outfit that
Cummins engine,
makes
regardless of
custom
what machine it's
forestry
put
equipment,
into. Is
think
what
Tiger
the
Cat or
understanding is.
one of the other brands like that. We would just our application engineers would work with these OEMs to design a package that's going to work for their application, and then if they ran into trouble with it, then we'd come to the rescue and helicopter in and kind of fix them on site. Yeah, like I used to fly into the Arctic and do some jobs up there for the government, up on Ellesmere Island, and that there was some outposts up there, and we would fix the generators on site, and so that was pretty unique.
Oh, really?
um, yeah, but like I said, I would come anywhere in southern Ontario. I might be working in Windsor one day. I could be in Fort Erie. I could be in Belleville. It was kind of wherever they needed us. But the majority of my time was spent in
That's
the
pretty cool.
kind of Niagara region and kind of Middlesex, kind of London area as well. So it was a lot of fun. It was a good time. So, I worked with a lot of really good people, met a lot of interesting customers. I really honed my
Wow,
So this
skills as far as
sounds kind
people
of like an
skills, being
illustrious
able to
career.
interact with people you've never met before. You got to walk in and be the
this
ambassador of
being
the company. You're wearing their logo, and nobody ever calls you going, "Hey, Dev, my engine's running great today. Everything's fine." They tell you they're irate. It's costing them
Mm-hmm.
money. It's a problem, and you got to show up, put out that fire, and then fix it and deal with delays,
Yeah.
shipping stuff, parts availability. It was trying to actually diagnose the thing and organize all that, because in the field you don't have an office up front kind of helping you order things and schedule. It just did a lot on your own. I wore a lot of hats in that role, which kind of prepared me for what I do now. So kind of running this thing. So that's right.
Yep, definitely.
The buck stops
now
here.
you get to be
So
your own boss, and if you do well, that's on you. If you're not having a good day, then that's on you as well. So you get to wear all the hats and
mhm.
and make most of the decisions yourself. No, we have a local Matco rep here as well, and really nice guy. Never puts any pressure on us to buy anything. And yeah, I mean, he comes here every few weeks, and yeah, we've actually really enjoyed. We just ended up purchasing.
Okay.
What did we just buy? Just bought a set of sockets
Well, that's what warranty's
for
for.
alloy rims. It's got like a
Are
carbon
those
It
fiber
happens.
sleeved ones? Yep.
sleeve on it.
Yep.
And obviously, my guy, the first thing he did is use it
Well,
on something he
save that,
shouldn't have,
because
and
again, in most
screw
cases,
one of those
a
up. But
lot
that's
of
okay.
the hardline stuff, sockets,
Yeah.
wrenches, things like that, have lifetime warranty on them. It's
Well,
what you're
one
paying
sleeve
for.
is
You're
already
paying for
off
that
it already,
service.
so it's sitting off to the
The
side.
guy's going to come in and take care of it
Yeah.
for you when you have a
Well,
problem.
they're not.
And like I said, whether it be us or a competitor, it's the service that sets you apart. It's the there's that initial sale, but then it's you're taking care of that guy, making sure that tool's performing
Yep.
well for them when they need it to make their money.
It,
That's
it's a
exactly what
full
we talk
service.
about in our automotive industry as well. Is like the customer experience. What like the customer is
Well,
going
and
to
that's
pay
it with
for a good
e-commerce
experience,
now. I
good
mean,
service, and they'll be
it's so
happy
easy
with it.
now
They'll
to
be
just
happy
buy
to
stuff
pay it
online. You can
as long as they
buy
get that right.
equipment, directly
So
from the
we're happy to
manufacturer in a
pay
lot
for
of
tools as
ways,
long as we get
or
that good
cheaper
service and
online.
good customer
Amazon's
service
really
and
disrupting
good
a
warranty.
lot
Like
of markets with all that they offer, right? And so, what are you doing? What am I doing to differentiate myself and bring value
Yep.
to that customer?
yeah.
That's the whole point of this, right? And so,
I mean, if you're able to explain, like, if I bought a set of impact sockets from you that are $300 or whatever it is, and then you go to crappy tire. Sorry, I shouldn't say Canadian Tire. We'll leave them with their actual name, Canadian Tire, and you buy a socket set from there. It's on sale for $79.99. I mean, the average person that may not understand the difference, yeah,
well, and
that
that's
set's
it.
80 bucks, and if you break a socket, they'll replace it.
Well,
But
safety, you know what I mean? Like
if you're
again,
replacing that socket
depending on the
every six or
application,
eight
if
six or
you're
eight times you're using
a
it,
hobbyist,
what's your time worth?
and you just,
Yeah.
you're looking to do things within a
It's a
budget,
different
those
how
tools
it's
can be
made
fine.
too.
Depending on how aggressive and often they're being used. But, if you're talking about a tool that's used all day, every day, they see a hard service life. And so you want something that's going to stand up. I've got a couple scars on my hands from injuries I've had where, a tool let me down. It could have been how I was using it. Could have just been, inferior material. But, I'm sitting here in the hospital waiting to get stitches, and I'm going, I would have a little bit more confidence if I had to spend a little bit more money on that tool, knowing that it was a higher quality tool, less likely to let me down and break in that moment.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be sitting here waiting for sutures. So, like I said, I kind of learned that lesson the hard way. And again, in certain areas, I've spent some good money on my
Yeah.
tools that I had during my career because I wanted it to perform well. And that was
Yeah.
especially important to me when I was a remote field tech, because I didn't have a shop like Frank or yourself where I'm there every day and my guys coming in every Thursday
Yeah.
to check in on me. I could be again in Windsor one day, I could be up north, I could be wherever, and so I had to learn how to service and maintain my tool on my own, so it didn't leave me hanging. And then I wanted something of high quality that was less likely to
Mm-hmm.
fail, when I needed it most. You know, so
Well, if you wanna play, you got to pay. All right, that's what it comes down to.
What I always found was with the cheap impact sockets, they wouldn't necessarily break, but they would wear out. And the worst part
yeah,
is when
and
you're on an
quality
impact, you put
materials.
your socket on and it falls off, right? And that's where a
Sometimes
quality
you got to do
socket
what you
will
got to
come in
do,
handy, where it's going to
but
hold its shape and it's going to hold its design for a
yeah.
longer time.
But no, yeah,
Frank,
it's
you do welding. Can you just
that's the
weld it
kind
right
of
on
thing
then?
where again the
Yeah,
service
but I got to
matters.
change it every
So
5 minutes, right?
even the best tools over a long
I
enough
suppose I
timeline
could
will
buy
wear out,
300
will
impact
will
guns,
break
so
and become a problem. So what relationship do you have with your tool rep? Is he going to be able to stand by that tool and help you out, even if it is a gray area? Sometimes you have tools that are a timed warranty and maybe you're out of warranty on that. Well, can he, lean on corporate to kind of help out in a goodwill sense? And hey, this guy's got a tool. It comes with a 1 year warranty. We're 14 months here, and now he's in this bad way. Let's do right by this guy and help him out. My district manager, who oversees all of the other distributors like me
yeah,
in the area, within Southern Ontario, he can kind of help me out in a case by case thing and give me credits to help me make a guy
Yeah.
100% again.
It makes a difference, right? From a shop standpoint, if our distributor or our Matco rep or other rep from another tool place, if they're taking care of us, I mean, we feel more compelled to call you up and say, hey, look, we need this tool or we need this serviced, and can you get us this? But if, like you said, if it's out of warranty by a month or 2 months and we're not being taken care of, then we start thinking,
Well, and
okay, you know
that's
what?
and
The
I think
next
that's what
big
drives
tool
a
I need
lot
to
of this,
buy, we'll
right?
call
Whether
the
it
other
be
guy and
Snap
try him
on
out.
Mac,
But
Mac, or
if one
whoever,
guy is taking care
a
of
lot
us,
of guys
then why
will
do we bother
gravitate to
calling
and
calling anyone else,
do
right?
business
You
with the
become
guy that's
our
going to show up
guy.
and take care of that. I worked all over the place before I landed at Cummins. I had a multitude of different jobs over my career, and I've got my toolbox was full of everything. I had some Snap-on tools in there. I had some Mac stuff. It was I spent money with and dealt with the guy that would show up consistently and take care of me. So there was a time when I was doing my automotive apprenticeship too. Didn't know if you knew about that, Frank, but I worked at a couple of different GM dealers, and so I was working in Hamilton at one point, and then
yeah,
another time I was working in Welland, in the Niagara region. So these are different territories. And the Mac guy that was good in Welland, maybe he was awful in Hamilton, and vice versa. The Snap-on guy out here is great, and I had a bad experience with the guy back
Oh
home
yeah,
out there. So it all depended on who's going to take care of you in the at that time. And sometimes you just needed a tool in the moment, so you
yeah.
drive over to Canadian Tire or Princess Auto, whoever got it in stock. You just needed it for that job. So it is what it is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's
You know,
sometimes with a lot of suppliers, it all comes down to ethics as well, right? Like you've heard the stories of the new apprentice. The first day they come into a shop, and then the tool truck comes over, and depending on who it is, they get excited to see a new apprentice and end up selling him a brand new box with tools and this and that. He does a credit check and he gets approved. The guy's now $6,000 in a debt, and he makes his first two payments, and 3 months down the road, the thing gets repoed. I mean, I've heard so many stories about that. And luckily, the trucks that I've dealt with here, I mean, they've been really good about that. They actually ask the apprentices questions like, "Look, are you serious about this? And is this something you want to do?" They don't want to just sell them, 6 or 8
Yeah, I
thousand
mean,
bucks worth of
it's
tools
it's
just
not
because they
hard for
got
some
approved,
people to
right?
get out
So
over their
that's another
skis. You
thing
know what I
that
mean? They
shows
can
a lot
have,
about who's driving the truck and
their eyes are bigger than
what
their stomach, in a
ethically
sense, right?
what's right.
You know,
That makes a
that's
big
one thing
difference.
that you're always trying to balance here. Like, every day that I go out, I want to, my income is from making sales. And so there are certain personalities and types of customers that, I could talk them into buying just about anything any given week. If I'd let them, they'd run up a huge bill, but I kind of know that this guy's a little irresponsible maybe, and, is, well, again, we'll get out over his skis, and then now he's not able to afford to pay me, and now that sours our relationship.
Yeah.
I might have to repo something back from him or whatever. That's embarrassing for him. So the real nuance is how to manage what is a reasonable amount of credit to give him. Like when it comes to the truck account, credit's kind of a separate
Yeah.
thing. If they're going to apply for financing through Matco or Mac or Snap-on, whatever, that's on more of a corporate end. But every truck typically has, $500 or $600 of a truck account credit that's interest free. They can just kind of work from that. And that's built again on that relationship of this guy's dependable. He makes his weekly payment that we've agreed to and whatnot. Yeah. So that you build up that rapport. This guy has proven that, hey, he can afford to pay $50 a week. He's diligent about that. So I don't mind giving him $400 or $500 worth of credit, because I know he's going to pay me back within that 6
months. You got to be able to trust the guy.
But you get guys that are going, yeah, sure, they'll do that, and then they'll rack up the same bill on another truck, and then they'll go buy a TV from Easy Home, and then next thing you know, they've got too many commitments, and now they can't afford to pay you $10 every 2 weeks, and that's a problem. So being able to identify those warning signs and those different personalities and manage that, you're less of a tool salesman at the end of the day in this business as a business manager, and you guys would know this as owners. It's managing those relationships with people and knowing who to apply some pressure to try and close a sale, and who to ease off of and go, I'm going to let that guy pay that bill down before we sell him the next thing. Even though he wants it, I might just try and pump the brakes and cool his jets a bit until he can reel that in and get it under control.
Definitely.
I've been there, you know what I mean? So sometimes that is the case. Or again,
or you could consider yourself a tool therapist and be like, listen, this is the tool you don't actually
really
need
listening
right
to what
you need to pay
what
this
the customer
one off
needs.
first.
If a guy comes on here and he's asking for a tool, I might ask him, well, what are you using it for? Well, I want to do this with it. They may not know. You don't know what you don't know. They may not know that there is a tool exists that better suits that purpose. Or maybe they've come in and I've warrantied something for them like 3 weeks in a row, and I'm going, how are you using this tool? What job are you doing? Well, I'm performing this task. We have a tool that's better suited for that, and so that's where at the end of the day that helps too, is to listen to them, have a bit of a conversation, know their needs, and then if a new tool comes out on the market, you can bring it to their attention and go, hey, look at this. This might make that job easier for you, or more efficient, make you more money, if you can get that job performed faster and safer. That's a big one too, working safe and having the right tool, the guys aren't getting hurt. Liability is huge, and WSIB claims are expensive, and so you want to avoid that. No, you know what I mean? So it's it's working safe and working smart, and spending money in the right places so that it's not wasted.
No, nobody needs that.
Nope.
No. And using the tool properly. I had that years ago. I had a snap-on ratchet that kept breaking and kept breaking and kept breaking. And finally the snap-on guy said to me, he's like, I think that you need a breaker bar. And I'm like, okay. So he sells me a breaker bar. I never broke a snap-on ratchet after that, because I was using it improperly, and that's just one of those things that you do. And I guess I was a journeyman at the time already, but still young and learning, and I wasn't using it properly. So after I got my breaker bar, like you said, when the right tool is there and the right tool is presented to you, and you say, hey, you're obviously doing something wrong, you need to have this tool to fix that. And once you get the right tool, then everything works so much better.
I mean, you can have the right tool, but if you don't have the exact right know-how on how to use that tool,
definitely,
I mean, it's basically useless in your hands, right? If you're not trained in that particular tool, or if you weren't shown exactly, there could be a tip or trick for that particular tool to use it. But if you're using it how you may think it's needed to be used, I mean, you could just be doing damage to it and having to replace them ever so often, for no reason. And then again, that's time, that's money that
Yeah.
a lot of us, time is money, right? So if you're having to replace tools all the time and you're down a tool, then what's going to happen is you may be waiting for Devin because he's busy and he's okay. Give me 4 or 5 days, I'll get one to you. So for 4 or 5 days, you don't have one. So what are you going to do? You're going to go to
That's unfortunate when that happens, and that does happen.
a random tool
Well,
shop to go and
and
pick
again,
up some
there's
tools
there's
for that
we try
particular
to
job, and then
make the most of the
that
tools
thing
that we
breaks.
have.
Now you're one more
So
day or 2 more days to get my
if
real tool, and then you're like, by the way,
if you
Devin, how
have
do I
one
use
tool that
this
will
tool?
serve a multitude of purposes, then uh, you know uh, that's an advantage because now you're saving some money. You don't have to buy all these different 10 specialty tools to do that job. However, there's not too many wonder tools out there to do it all. And I had one customer that had it was an indexing, telescoping kind of a pry bar, and so yeah, you can index them so that they're like 90 degree or straight, and then you can telescope them to different lengths. And he was using that thing there for different prying operations, but then he had to drive out a bearing
The
race,
heel
and he
bar
decided, I'm
thing.
going to use
Yep.
this thing, set it straight, and he started whacking away on it with a hammer, and he damaged
Yep.
the mechanism that holds it at the different lengths.
Wow.
And so I see this thing, and I could see it was all mushroomed and peened on the end. And I says, what job are you using this thing on that you would need to hit it with a hammer? He was explaining that he was driving these races. I said, well, we make a tool for that works really, really well. And I says, and then you're not beating up this tool here. And I warranted it for him. And I says, okay, we'll take care of that, but you can prevent this problem from happening and damaging this tool. Now it's useless to you in all the other ways that it is of benefit because you damaged it doing this one job. So I sold him the other tool, and he's been happy since. And that
Yeah.
let's go with that.
Maybe he just likes seeing you so often, Devin, that he just decided, I'm just going to break this a little more so that I can get that repaired, and then I can just buy some more tools while you're there.
So
Nobody wants to see their tool guy as much, just like customers don't want to see their mechanic. I have so many people say to me, I really like you, but don't take this the wrong way. I hope I don't have to see you again.
I had that. It's kind of funny you said that. I remember the conversation I had about like 3 or 4 months ago. A customer with, I think it was a Mazda 3, like a 15 or a 16. We came in, the rear, it's common on them, the rear shock mount's broken.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing one side on there, and we did a shock and mount together, just that way it's all new. And I told them, like, look, we usually do these in pairs because usually if one's gone, the other one's going to be on its way. Nope, just want to do one side.
Really?
I'm like, okay. But I'm taking this picture, and I'm writing on it that you need
unfortunate.
both.
That can
and,
be
text
penny
messages
wise
back
and
and
pound
forth. Because
foolish.
again, I got to
it's hard.
document everything.
Again, people are working on
2 weeks
budgets.
later,
The economy is difficult.
call me.
Things are tight.
So I think I need the other
and
side.
trying to make that dollar stretch can be a tough choice for a customer. But there's something to be said for, hey, we're already in there. You're already paying this labor. We can do it while we're at it, and the bill will ultimately be cheaper than having to go in and do it twice. I've seen that at Cummins often. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
trying
where
to talk
that
customers into that
relationship-
sometimes is like
that relationship being built with them is
once they
important because then they can
understand that
trust
it's
you.
going to actually save
They
them
know you're
time
not
and
trying to
money in
just
the long
upsell
run.
them to make a sale, but
Then,
you're looking out for their best
once you can get
interests
that to a
or
customer,
for the
then
best
it's a good
interest
deal.
of them and their family,
If
the
they don't
vehicle
understand
itself for its safe
Exactly.
operation and whatever. I did a job at Cummins years back doing injectors. Come out there and had a vehicle that wouldn't start
Exactly.
without ether. Once they got it running, it would run all day. But as soon as they shut it off, and there was an injector problem. Long story short, I diagnosed it down, and it had 2 injectors that were bad. And the rest of them were kind of on the limit of this test you performed to measure how much injector return flow they have if they're leaking too much. And I said, they're on the limit, but they're technically good. But these 2 are definitely bad. They're causing your problem. I would just do all 6 while we're there. We're already got the valve cover off and all the stuff out of the way to get at it. And they're right there. And the customer opted not just do the 2. And I said, okay, we did that. And just like Frank said, about 2 weeks later, and that they called me up. All right, yeah, it's doing the same thing again. It looks like we'll need those other ones. Well, the bill was, exceptionally higher because the same travel applied and the same labor to take everything all back apart and do that job twice. That's one example, but like in that way, there it can cost the customer a lot of money trying to save a few bucks on the front end. So.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
yeah, and like you say, once you have that relationship with the customer and you say, "This is what needs to be done," and when they can just say, "Yeah, go ahead and do it." My favorite customer is the one that comes in and says, "Just call me when it's done. I don't want to know anything about it. I don't care. Just call me when it's done." And I'm like, those are the best customers, and I love
So you
having
know what?
customers that are.
Those customers are called cheerleaders.
Yeah,
So those customers are, I call them cheerleaders. I've heard this on another podcast because when when they're done, they pick up their car, they already know it's going to be fine because they trust you.
yeah,
And then when they're out with their buddies, or if it's a woman, if they're out with their friends, they're going to be saying, "Oh man, Frank fixed my car." Obviously, if it's
Yeah,
Frank,
it's a good feeling when you
he
can
took
deliver
care of
for
it.
them in that
That's a
way, and
cheerleader
then
because they're
they
going
pay
to be,
you back with that kind of,
praising your name for the next
just spreading the
25,
good word because
30
they'll tell 10
minutes.
people,
They're going to tell 10 more
whether you did a
people.
good
And those
job
are
or a
the ones
bad
that you
one,
go over and
and
above
so
for, right?
yeah,
that's really good when
yeah,
you
So those are
deliver.
like the best customers.
Word of mouth is huge. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get more advertising that way than if you put an ad in the paper or something like that. I always believe. I've always believed that word of mouth is advertising is better than anything else.
What's Devin, what's the trend right now? I mean, I'm sure you see tons and tons of shops. What's the trend right now? How are all the shops doing? Again, right now we're recording beginning of January. So
the
how's it
industry
been
really
for
ebbs and
shops? Are
flows.
they kind of steady? It's a loaded
Traditionally,
question because it depends on
the
what
heavy
shop
truck
you go
industry,
to,
like
but
transport
is
trucks
it
and
steady, or
heavy
a lot of
equipment,
bays are full, or
agriculture, they tend
what's
to
a
be
good
pretty
word right now?
stable despite the economy. Because product needs to move to and from stores, garbage needs to get picked up and delivered, the crops got to come off the field. These are industries where they're pretty resilient, and I've even seen some of those shops slow, which
Oh
surprises
yeah,
me. I mean, in all my years of being a truck and coach tech,
100%.
some of the shops, the heavy truck places that are slow, surprise me. And so that just tells you the kind of shape that the economy is currently
Wow.
going through.
Really?
Automotive tends to rise and fall throughout different seasons. Tire season in the spring, guys will pick up, but it's slow after Christmas because there's that kind of, that, everybody's gone through the big push from Christmas and spent all their money on presents and yeah, and so the last thing they want to do is spend money on a minivan just to get it running. It's different when it's like their toy and they look forward to putting money
Everyone's
into that
broke and
thing.
getting their
When it's just a vehicle
credit card
broken
bills
down,
in
they
about
just
three
look at that as a
weeks.
cost, and
Hmm.
so they'll do whatever minimum they tend to need to do to get it running and keep the wheels turning, but they're not looking to spend any extra money if they don't have to. And so shops
Yeah,
feel that usually in the new year around this time, I'll see a sag because if shops are slow, then I'm slow. You know what I mean? When you guys are doing well and times are plentiful, then they're looking to invest in tools they've been kind of keeping an eye on and waiting to see if it goes on sale, or maybe they've got the disposable money to invest in that now.
of
And
course.
so I'll
Yeah.
typically see it slow down in the new year, and then it'll pick up during tire season, and then there'll be a bit of a taper until vehicles start kind of moving around in summertime for vacations and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then back to school was always a slow time too in automotive. When I worked at the dealer, it seemed like September every year was super slow until tire season kicked in, and it felt like a late tire season this year. A lot of shops were pretty slow and not really sending guys home, but just not super busy. And right here before Christmas, things picked up again as shops were doing
Yeah.
tire season stuff and getting the wheels off and checking out brakes and suspension while you're in there and all that kind of low hanging fruit. But it's definitely been a little more trepidatious. Customers are cautious about where they're going to spend their money because the future is just kind of uncertain right now, right? And people are feeling that. There's just you sense it, and so uh, well, everything went up. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the
so
rising
whether it be
cost of everything,
strawberries
right? I
or
mean, have you seen
the
the
Yeah.
cost of
staples like
strawberries?
eggs
Like,
and bread, milk, things
Four
like that,
four
everything is
dollars a
just
pound right
more
now.
costly than it was a
I've
couple of years
seen
ago. And
6.99 at the local Walmart here.
Yeah.
Yeah. and and with those costs and everything, like I've been preaching to Frank as well. Like, we all have to absorb some of that and raise our prices, and the ones that suffer, unfortunately, a lot of the time ends up being the end consumer, the customer, right? Like there's only so much where we can discount, and at some point, like, we need to raise our prices a bit too, just to kind of move things along, right?
Well, at the end of the day, consumer pays for it all. Even like for you, Devin, like your consumers pay for your truck, pay for your travel, pay for your wages and everything like that. And that's how we are too. Like our consumers, they pay for our employees' wages, they pay for our gas bill, they pay for our hydro, they pay
Well,
for our
it's
rent or
not often that
mortgage.
a company
And that's
can
all paid for by
absorb those
consumers.
kind
We do
of
that for
increases
Walmart, our
on their
grocery store,
inputs. It's very
whatever, or Tim
expensive.
Hortons. The
Yeah.
consumer at the end
And
of the day
they might be able to weather
pays
it for
for
a time,
everything.
but if those
I
if those pressures remain, if the cost of steel to build a toolbox or to
No.
manufacture these tools remains high, eventually the price of that socket goes up. Because you guys didn't wake up this morning to make no money. You're in it to make a living and to provide. And so you can only absorb those kind of hits and losses for so long before something has to give. And so
Yeah.
ultimately the customers, the end user, which is all of us at the end of the day, when we go to a grocery store or whatever we need,
Exactly.
we all end up paying in the end. Different policies that drive cost increases sound good at their onset, but often trickle down, and we all, as a consumer on one level or another, end up paying it in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I've had customers, they'll ask me, what are your feelings about the tariffs on tires and stuff like that? And I'm like, they're like, what do you mean? If the cost of the tire goes up, I mean, I'm just going to be selling a more expensive tire. Like if the cost of the tire was $105 and now it's 119, then it's going to be X amount of dollars more for the customer. And when they ask why, this is what it is. I mean, unfortunately, and that's the same thing. Like when we go and buy stuff outside of a shop,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
we all see the prices, and it is
when
what
you've
it
been
is.
in
It's just
the
the
trade,
environment
or in
and
this
the
career as
climate
long
that we're
as
in.
we
We
guys
can't
have, and
do
myself.
anything about it until
When I was an
things
apprentice
change from the
25 years
top.
ago, the cost of a toolbox was
exactly.
dramatically less than it is now. And so it's the same thing with a lot of these hand tools, or any product out there. And so I look back and I look at how far my dollar went back then, even though I made less of it. I have to make so much more now to offset that rising cost, of a toolbox or whatever. So whether it be a tariff or just inflationary increases over the years, and a lot of our products come from the States, whether it be a Matco tool or whatever product it is we buy at the store.
Definitely.
And so exchange rate, just the position of our dollar in general and our buying power is a factor in that too.
Yep.
The biggest thing that drove, sorry, I was just saying the biggest thing that drove costs up in my business for as far as tool industry in the last year was
But you guys have
an exchange rate change. So
sorry, go ahead.
Even though on average it's like 40 cents on the dollar for you to go to the bank and exchange your money to U.S. currency, Matco was giving us a really good break. So up until the spring, if you wanted to buy $1 worth of U.S. goods, it would cost $1.17 Canadian. So it was a very low exchange rate we were locked in at for like the last 5 years. And then that changed and bumped up to 30. So now it's $1.30 by $1 worth. So that's 13 points. That's not nothing. And so that represented like a significant increase overnight in last March of a cost on that same tool. You know what I mean? Because to buy that $100 tool now cost me $130. And again, the customer ends up paying that, because I'm still trying to drive at that margin that I'm targeting to be profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. So, but and then so customers are smart. They're waiting for sales on things like that, and we have these little lists that I keep a needs list. It's called of every customer. Right? So if you tell me, hey, Dev, I'm in the market for a nice hammer set at some point here. If you got a nice 4-piece set that goes on a deal, let me know. Well, I'll put it in a thing called a needs list in my system, and then it will flag it for that customer and say, hey, that's coming up on promotion in next week's flyer. I can then let them know about that and bring it to their attention. They can decide if now's a good time to buy that or not. So just customers are being cautious about deals and where they can save money, and so we have to pivot and be able to provide that service and help them save that money and hopefully land a sale through a deal that we've got on. Yeah, so that way when I call up your profile at the bottom of the computer, I'll have a row of item
So your
numbers
system
that
will
we
actually
might
allow
be
you
talking
to
about in
put
the past and
into
you're interested
a
in.
need like,
But
and then pop
hey, if
up
that
when
light
that
ever
thing is
goes on
coming up
sale,
on
let me know.
sale,
Oh, I put it
like
in
in your
that
computer.
spot.
Oh, that's really good.
That's right. Yeah, so you've been happy with that one there, and so if I see a
Yep.
deal on it again, then I'll be the first to let you know that it's on promotion, and then you can
Well,
save some money,
we've got that
and
one
maybe
light I
that would
think
be a
we've
good
got
time
in
to
this
take it.
system
So
right
that
now.
helps customers
That
save some
green one
money,
I got from you.
and if
I
you're
think
on
that
top of
Underhood
it,
hood
and
light
and
is
again,
phenomenal. Yeah.
it's just about knowing your customer and every time I
Yep.
walk into a shop, I walk in with my route list. It's a paper list I have printed, and as soon as somebody asks me something, I write it down on there
Yeah.
so I don't forget about it when I go back to my truck, because you'll be talking to 6 7 guys, and it's easy to forget those little details. And so that way there you can serve them well and keep an eye out for a deal on something that they need.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the hope. That trust and service, it
And there's
drives
always
the
going to be a
results that
time
we're
where they
kind of
may
all
not need
chasing
something
after.
right
And
now,
so,
and down the
if you
line
can
something
if you
comes
can
up, and
deliver that
then
for that customer
they'll know
and
who to call,
and
right?
uh, be professional about it and stay on top of those little details and serve them in those little ways, you build that relationship with them, and then they're more likely to do business with you and think of you first. I've have a number of customers where if they're shopping for a larger purchase like a cart or a box or something else like that, I'll get a text and I'll be, hey Dev, you know whoever my competitor of the day is, they've got this deal on
Definitely.
right now. What have you got? Can you match that, or can you compare? I've had several customers where I can't match that price. The whatever deal they've got going on is eating my lunch, and they'll choose to do business with me anyway because of some other way that I outperform or deliver for
Yeah.
them, which is very humbling to me. You know what I mean? I've got customers where, because to me, $20 is, I work hard for my money. And so $20 is $20. If I can save it, I try. And so I'm humbled and honored when they want to do business with me anyway, even though
Hmm.
it's going to cost them an extra $35, because it is, and so,
Exactly. Yep. We got to do that.
yeah, it's
Relationship
hard to
is
build
everything,
and
man.
easy to lose,
Yeah.
so that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Building that takes time and a
Absolutely.
lot of energy. And once you have that, you don't want to let that go. You don't want to slip up and be like, oh, and then just sorry about that. Yeah, very much so. Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's
Good.
great. Oh, that's great, Devin. I think we're getting up to about 45 minutes or so.
Well,
I
I'm
think
glad to do it.
we'll call it here,
Really
Devin.
appreciate the
Really, really
invite, and
appreciate you
it's
coming on the
been a
podcast
lot of
today. I
fun doing
know
this here.
time is
I've
money,
listened to a
and
lot of
you
podcasts over
spent
the
some
years.
time
Never
with
thought I'd
us,
be on
and
one, so it's an
I
honor.
really, really
And
appreciate it.
hopefully I had some information that's of value to your listeners and to you guys there. And if you got, I'd be happy to do it again sometime if you ever want to have me back
Wow.
on.
Look at us go. Absolutely. Yeah, and if
Sounds
anyone
great.
is in that route that he described, if you need to reach him, you can. I'm sure you can look it up on the website, or you
Thank you,
reach out to
gentlemen.
me. I've got his number, and we can set you up with Devin. He's an honest guy and does a great job and does well by his service. So we really appreciate you and thanks for coming out.
Thanks, Devin. Just hang on here for a second, okay?